We do this every day from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. If you want to be a guest on the Mother Love Show, all you have to do is call or send us an email, themotherloveshow@gmail.com. We have amazing guests. And this lady who's coming on with me, she is an amazing woman. She was married to a really famous guy. His name was Theodore Bikel. He was an actor, singer, and a civil rights activist, best known for his role as Tevye on the Milkman in more than 2,200 performances of Fiddler on the Roof, Captain Von Trapp, in the original Broadway production of The Sound of Music, later to, the later of which earned him a Tony nomination. Well, he was born in Vienna. He narrowly escaped the Holocaust when his parents were able to obtain entry permits into then Palestine after the Nazis he joined a kibbutz, and it was there, learning to play and sing on a guitar left behind by a volunteer, that he was always bit by the performing bug. Yeah, you're gonna get bit by the bug, and when it's all up in here, it's all up in here. And in 1946, in 1946, he studied at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London, followed by an acclaimed performance in Laurence Olivier's production of A Streetcar Named Desire. I got it. He often played roles of authority and appeared on Broadway in productions of Tonight in Samarkand, The Hope Dancers, Another Tony Nod, and The Lark. He also appeared in operas and film, including La Gaza Ladra, and The Abduction from the Cerebello. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. I didn't touch anything. He also hosted a weekly radio program, At Home with Theodore Bikel, which was nationally syndicated. He was also a folk singer and a records album over the course of his career, many of them Yiddish and Jewish folk songs. In 1961, he founded the Newport Folk Festival together and sang to sold-out audiences across the country, including the Hollywood Bowl and Carnegie Hall. When you get that big and you could go in there and have the acknowledged with the Hollywood Bowl and Carnegie Hall. And I kind of sort of did Hollywood Bowl. We went to a concert there, and it was I want to say it was a classical music concert at the Hollywood Bowl. And I don't think I'd ever been there, but when this debacle, well, I'm going to say it was a debacle. So I'm at the Hollywood Bowl. I'll tell you that story later. And my story about Carnegie Hall with Michael Jackson, that'll come later sometime. Bikel has received an Academy Award nomination for his supporting performance in the 1958 film The Defiant Ones. And I know some of you babies don't even know who Theodore Bikel is, who this guy was something. I mean, he really was something. And to get to a place where you could sell out Carnegie Hall and the Hollywood Bowl, that is a real feat. And that also lets you know how far your mark will go, how far your influence will go, because we never know. You never know who's watching you. Well, this lady has been watching the history of Theodore Bikel for the duration. On the program with me is the very lovely, the very talented. This is Miss Aimee Ginsburg Bikel. Welcome to the program, my dear.
Thank you so much. So nice to see you.
It's nice to see. It's nice to be seen. They don't let me out much.
I see you've got a great chair right in front of the Hollywood sign.
I know. How cool is that? So first, before we get involved, this is his widow who has, look at that smile. You can't beat that smile with a stick. Girl, you got light all around them, and them cheeks are just working me. How did you meet Theodore Bikel? Because he's an actor. You don't say too much about who you are and what you do. He says, well, I'm Theo's wife. I want to hear about you. Where did you grow up? How many sisters and brothers did you have? Did you even like them? Did you want to move out? Tell me about
that. I liked them very well. I grew up in Los Angeles and in Cincinnati and in Israel.
Yes!
I went through a lot of different moves in my life, all in different places in the world. And then I finished growing up here in Los Angeles. But really, as soon as I turned 18, I got on a plane and went back to Israel and really lived there for many years, became a journalist there, a radio broadcaster like you. I hosted my own programs on Israel's, main radio station. And when I was in my early 30s, I left Israel and moved to India. Also because I'd always been interested in India and kind of inexplicably attracted and called to the Indian culture. And also as a journalist, it worked out for me, and I became a foreign correspondent. While I was in Israel, I was a journalist, but local. And once I moved to India, I became a foreign correspondent, and that was a huge leap in my career responsibility.
I was just gonna ask. I know this is very disturbing, and a lot of us are just perturbed and don't understand because war is stupid. I mean, why are you gonna go beat up some people that are all people like you? And what's going on in Israel and the Gaza Strip, and everybody want to fight each other and kill each other. We're just gonna take every. What is your take? My aunt went to Israel and she said she came back another woman. How is this affecting you after you've lived in Israel?
It's the worst. It's been, endless pain since. In truth, it's been endless pain, since I was a young woman and became a little bit more politicized and realized the pain of both sides. I don't like to call them sides because I like to think of all of us as one. And I don't really appreciate when we are forced to take sides, and to take sides based on our passport or where we were born, or the accidents of our birth, our religion, our gender, things that we really had nothing to do with. And then according to that, we're supposed to take a side and be loyal only to our own side. Well, I feel like a sister to all other women. I feel like a sister to all other people in the world. And I'm deeply Jewish. I'm very committed to my culture, but that in no way makes me feel that I'm better than anyone else, or that I'm supposed to win, or I'm supposed to push out anyone else.
So let me say this: looking at your face and seeing the emotion that you have coming from your heart. When you say we're people of the world, that's the big issue, because they don't want us to be people of the world. Men don't want us to learn anything. Men don't want us to go any place. And then when we came out of the house and got into the workforce, all HE double hockey sticks just done broke out, and they don't know whether to they don't know whether to go blind or crazy. And I'm just looking at my, these are grown men. Do you realize the creativity and the structure that you are deteriorating because you mad at something happened 100 years ago? Really? You weren't even born back then. See, I understand. I understand your pain. I understand your angst. And they don't, what your problem is, Miss Aimee Ginsburg Bikel. You think too much. You like, hey, look
at my sister now. My sister always tells me that I think too much. I do think a lot. I don't know if it's too much, but I think a lot. And it's interesting because almost everything we've touched so far are things that I've had in common with Theo. Not to move us back to Theo, but
it's gonna be about Theo.
He felt very similarly about the world as I did, and he went through the same process that I did, i.e., as young people, being very maybe patriotic. I mean, definitely. He grew up as a socialist. I grew up as an almost socialist. So definitely call on the left as if you can give your heart a direction.
I never thought I would have heard those two words put together. And as soon as you said them, I'm like, that makes sense.
It does make sense. But we went through the same process of realizing over the years that loving our own people and being protective of our own people cannot come at the expense of any other people, and that the minute loyalty to our own people comes at the expense of someone else, then it's all become ruined. And we shared that very deeply, and also I think we overthought. So sometimes we'd lay in bed at night, each one kind of pretending to be asleep, not to disturb the other.
I've been there, done that.
And after a long time, realizing that we're both laying there sleeping, so we might as well thinking, so we might as well just think. So I was living in India for many years, for 17 years. I raised 2 sons there, more or less on my own. And I went there already with 1 son from my first husband, who was an Israeli writer, a very successful Israeli writer. I got another kid while I was there from an Indian yogi from the Himalayas. So I had a really
you just went
around a little bit.
See, they couldn't say not one word about you. See, you're an equal opportunity. I'm gonna break your heart, chick. That's how you. Okay, so how old are your sons now?
My oldest is just turning 30 in a couple of months, and my youngest is 23 years old. We all moved back together to the States when it was time, when I had met Theo.
Where'd you meet him?
I met Theo at a Shabbat dinner at a mutual friend's house. I was living in India at the time, but I used to come back every year to visit family with my kids. You know, that was our chance to be in the lap of luxury for a bit in my mother's plush home in the San Fernando Valley. I was living with the kids in practically a hovel in the jungle on the beach in Goa, with monkeys hopping on our roof, and you have to check under the pillows every night for scorpions. You know, it was in the monsoon. You know, you'd get the animal. It was quite an adventurous life. And then, but I was back in Los Angeles visiting, and a friend who's a screenwriter and a producer in Hollywood, who knew me for my writing, invited me over for a Shabbat dinner, a Sabbath dinner, and he told me Theodore Bikel would be there. And actually, I couldn't go to the dinner because it was my son's, my little son's birthday, and I was making food for the family. And he said, "Oh, I have a great guest. You have to come." And I kept saying, "Be that as it may, I can't come." And he said, "But I have a great guest." And finally, I said, "Well, who is your guest?" And he said, "It's Theodore Bikel." I said, "Theodore Bikel? How do you know Theodore Bikel?" He said, "Well, he's my friend, and he's coming for dinner." And I thought I should go.
Well, you knew who he was. You already knew who he was.
Oh, I grew up on him in a way, although I'm younger. My parents were more his typical fan age, but my father had every record of his on the shelf, as did most Jewish people. You know, he was huge, enormous in the Jewish world. He was enormous in the non-Jewish world as well, but in the Jewish world, he was the hero. You know, some people sometimes say, well, the hierarchy some people will say something like, the hierarchy in the Jewish world in those days was God, Theodore Bikel, and then everybody else, you know.
Then just give them some big giant shoulders to stand on. Okay, it's God and Theodore Bikel. You know, that might not be a big jump, because when God has a message and an assignment for you, it will come to you. You might think it's too big and ginormous, but it will come to you. Now, did you always know that you wanted to be a journalist?
No, although my father later said that it was clear to him that I was like Barbara Walters from when I was born. It wasn't clear to me. I was doing acting when I was a young woman up until I was about 18, and then I realized I'd rather be I don't like having to do other people's lines. You know, I was too kind of, and then I went into communications, and I always wrote. I loved to write. I didn't think I'd be a writer, but I loved to write. I loved telling stories, let's say, you know. And when it was time to go to the army in Israel, I chose to try to get accepted to the Army radio station, which is a very prestigious posting. And Israel Army radio station is a very big deal. All the civilians hear it as well. And it's a very fine radio station. It's not just Army stuff.
Okay.
And so you have to try out. It's a really big deal. Thousands of people apply, and they only take 10 new people a year or something. And I got in. That was the beginning of my journalism career. And then I met someone while I was working who was the editor of a big business magazine in Israel. And he heard my feminist ideas. And he said, "You need a column in this magazine about women and the world of work." And it was very revolutionary at that point. I'm not that old, but still there had not been in Israel any kind of feminist, there wasn't a lot of feminist writing at the time. So my column was full on, full on feminist.
So you just went in and turned over not just the apple cart. You turned over the fruit, the apples, the oranges, some bananas, the berries, and then you went, so you're a rabble rouser. You
Never heard it put exactly that way, but I like it. And then I won a very important award for the woman for the journalist who's done the most to change the status of women in Israel. I got many laws passed because of my column. Sexual harassment in the workplace, equal pay in certain ways. There was a big wage gap.
Wait, you talk about that. Wait a minute. You got away with that at that time.
Like, I got laws passed, and so that was very rewarding. It was.
So do they have an Aimee Ginsburg Bikel Award to give out to the journalists, the young ones that are coming up? And if not, that's something to put a feather.
We should think about that. They should do that. They should do that. A lot of
women don't get acknowledged for the work that they do.
You are so true.
It's not so much that we want recognition or we want approval. We just know when something is wrong. And when something is wrong and it's affecting a lot of people, we got big mouths and giant hearts and our brain is coming out the side of our ears because now Aimee, women are going to be the one to clean up this crap show that's going on in the world. And so
no one else to do it. It's mom. At the end of the day, it's mom. Who else is going to do it? Everyone else is gone and mom is still schlepping along. Mom is like, I'm tired from you now, but you're a burden on my shoulders now, but we have, it's got to get done and I'm going to do it. So
we have to. It's really not a choice.
And no choice.
Especially you have sons. So your bloodline will live on inside of them and the children that they have. And that's a big deal. I think that's one of the big reasons why here in America, these old white men are talking about, oh, you can't have an abortion. I don't care if your daddy raped you. You got to do. I want to take a shoe. I'm going to take my good shoe. Won't be a cheap shoe. But I'm going to take my shoe and I'm going there and I'm going to beat. Yes, I'm opposing violence. If you can be beat into.
It's very hard to bear. It's very hard to bear what's happening. And it's very hard to bear the old white men anymore. One more minute. We don't want them. We don't want to see them. We don't want to hear them. Enough.
And please let that be enough. That's why it is so important, especially in the United States and every place that there's a democracy, because it's a very fragile state that we're in. We're supposed to have a more perfect union for all of us. It didn't say just for the old white man. Old white men said that that's just going to be for us. Men don't need to do this. Black men don't need to do this. And women, I have the question. They still pissed off about Barack Hussein Obama was a 2-term president. Get over yourself. Okay, you're not the smartest one in the room anymore, Mr. Republican, Mr. Democrat. Okay, that's why and you think they are, they're shaking in their boots. And that's why people like you got to keep them shaking in their boots. So now you meet back to Theo, because you see how we could both just
being a journalist for all those years. I got bit by the bug of spirituality in its female form, and I started to feel a very, very deep connection to what one could call the feminine side of God. And became very, very involved in that, and in Israel kind of was one of the leaders of a new movement of bringing a feminine side into everything, which is sorely lacking. And after more time, Israel became not the right place for me anymore. And in India started calling. So I went to India because there in India, God is mother. And it was a very comfortable place for me to be for a long time, in a place where God is worshipped as mother. It nourished my soul. And I was there for 17 years, like I said, as a very important foreign correspondent. And one day when I was back in America, I met Theo at a Sabbath dinner. And even though he's an old white man, he was sitting opposite the table for me. And this dinner table happened to be surrounded by people that were pretty conservative, really, in their political opinions.
Oh,
and Theo is a big, lefty, and I am too. We never met before, but we found ourselves agreeing with everything, and a lot of electricity started crackling between us. But he was 87 years old, and I was 50. You don't think
He was
romantically.
robbing the cradle. He was robbing the cradle, and you let him.
Except his excuse, every time people said that, he would say, look, she was 50. 50 isn't robbing the cradle. If she'd been 30, I'd been robbing the cradle. That's what he used to say.
So he understood what it meant.
He had 2 children already. She was 50 years old. It was okay. And so I went back to India, and he started Skyping me on Skype all the time. And it went from 2 or 3 times a week to every day. And then we found ourselves Skyping 3 times a day. And then I thought, oh, I think I'm in love. And he thought, oh, I think I'm in love. And I really resisted that because he was older than me, and I was I was determined to stop doing all of these crazy adventurous things I'd been doing all my life, moving to India and living with the holy men and all these things I was doing. And I thought, no, I'm 50 years old now. I need to start doing regular, normal things. And I thought
you just said you started doing regular and normal things. I don't even believe you thought that.
No, I did. But then a very dear friend of mine who's much older, also a writer named Erica Jong, and was a good friend of mine.
Oh, Erica Jong, she's a real feminist. Okay, don't come back.
She is. And I spoke to Erica, and Erica said, no, this is true. If this is true love, you go for it. I give you permission. So about a month later already, I left India, moved into this house that I'm in right now with Theo, and we got married very quickly. I realized that he was older and that there wasn't a lot of time left, and we adored each other, and we felt like we came from the same place in the spiritual realms, that we came from the same place. Our beliefs were very similar. He didn't have as much of a kind of spiritual hippie side as I do. But as far as our view on life and our connection to our people and our devotion to what's called in Hebrew tikkun olam, which means the tikkun olam.
Olam.
And that means the fixing of the world. And that's a very central part of Judaism. It means if you were born to be a part of the fixing of the world. We live in a world that's broken, and God makes people to fix that broken world. And it's a very central Jewish tenet, which unfortunately some of my fellow Jews have completely forgotten about. But many others haven't. An enormous number of Jewish people are active daily in this task of fixing the world. Unfortunately, other ones can be more noisy, and we maybe don't hear about them. And Theo, even though he was a major star, singing and acting, major, and real.
A star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Now, see, that's when
and the Los Angeles is going to be naming one of the most important.
Tell them about the square. Wait a minute, we're not going to.
I'm going to tell you that in a minute, but let me finish what I was going to say. And that is that not only was he a major star, but he devoted his life. I just noticed I have a can of Pledge there on the table. I'm going to change my
right. No free publicity.
No.
You already said it already.
He devoted his life to social justice and to civil rights. He went marching in Birmingham for the Voting Act, for voting rights, and was in jail twice for that. In Birmingham, he used to say that even the jail was segregated. And as he went through his hard nights there when they got beat up, and harassed, and he said he'd be on one side of the jail, and then all of his Black comrades will be on the other side of the jail, and they'd sing to each other through the night. And he would say he'd dream of a time that at least the jails wouldn't be segregated anymore. And when Obama was elected, he wept and wept and wept, because how could he imagine that not only would the jails not be segregated, but 2 little girls, named Sasha and Malia would be in the actual, White House. He's very involved. His house in Greenwich Village was a headquarters for SNCC, for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
I was part of that.
He was arrested again, protesting apartheid in front of the South African embassy. He was immensely active in Amnesty International. He never stopped. He was active every day, and he also was the president of Actors Equity, the actors union. And as he traveled across the country with his concerts and his acting gigs, he would ask his secretary to make meetings of the actors in the different cities. And he would go to them, and as their president, he would say that actors love what they do so much that they would give away anything, their body itself, to take a role. And he would teach them, you are working people, you have to keep your dignity, you have yourselves, you have your future selves to take care of, you have families to take care of, you have to insist on the right wages, you have to work, you have to insist on dignified working conditions. And in his era of being president of Actors Equity, the entire conditions of working people changed in this world, so that now we know that actors have their contracts, they have their, they have their agents, but back in that time, that wasn't so. So because he was such a fabulous, incredible president of Actors Equity, and later of the umbrella organization of all the performers in this country called the 4As, the city of Los Angeles has decided for his 100th birthday, which is this year. His birthday was last week, but then we're celebrating his centennial this entire year.
So you celebrate every day. Every day.
Every day. The city of Los Angeles is naming the intersection right outside the SAG-AFTRA building, the Theo Bikel Square for Peace and Justice. It's in front of the La Brea Tar Pits. It's right next to LACMA, the Los Angeles County Arts Museum of Art, and then the new Academy of Motion Pictures Museum is there as well. And the intersection is going to be called the Theo Bikel Square of Peace and Justice. I don't have the date for the ribbon cutting yet, which will be a very exciting ceremony, but I'll keep you posted when I have the date sometime later in the summer.
He was one of our favorite actors. My mother used to say, if it wasn't for your daddy, I'd be married to Theodore Bikel. I said, Mama, he don't even
know how many people I hear that from, that their mothers were so in love with him.
And I was like, who the heck is that? And we were watching one of, I think it was one where the Defiant Ones. I saw him first in the Defiant Ones. And
what a film.
Oh my God. It is just, we could talk about that for hours. And so when it came on,
he was Oscar nominated for that role.
Right. Oscar nominated. That has to always be in his name. And all the things he's done, because he, when you're in this business, or whenever you're in business, you don't know if it's your, you own a trash container place, or you got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We are all still people, and we should all be recognized. And the fact that the city of Los Angeles wants to do this for him, and he deserves it. And so did you get the letter, or you get the call when they told you they were going to do this?
Well, it was kind of a collaboration. So yeah, we were working on it since last year, and it had to go through this committee and that committee and this committee. And then, yes, I finally got the letter that it's all been approved, that it was approved unanimously by the city council, which is such an honor. And, I danced a little bit. He would just be, so very thrilled. And I also want to mention that during this coming year, I am on tour. I'm going to many different venues, universities, museums, synagogues, and speaking about his incredible life and legacy and what he taught us. Any of your listeners that want me to come to their church, organization, anything like that, they should be in touch. And
what are you teaching on your journey? What are you showing besides what a great husband and what a magnificent performer he was? And
so this is what I like to teach. So Theo was born in Austria in 1924 and in Vienna, and had a very, very happy childhood. He was a proud little Jewish boy, and his parents were very proudly Jewish, and he loved his life, and he thought he'd grow up there and be an actor. He wanted to be an actor since he was a small child. And then there was the rise of the Nazis, and in 1938, they marched in and annexed Austria. And overnight, he went from being a safe, happy boy living his life to a persecuted, hated minority whose life was in extreme danger, which realistically, And he had to escape. He escaped with his parents. I wrote a book about that called Theodore Bikel's The City of Light. And he felt like a refugee in one way or another for the rest of his life. And that experience, instead of it making him bitter against anyone else, full of hatred and resentment, or full of the desire for revenge, it turned him into a kind, loving human being with compassion for all the plights of everyone else in this world, and the realization that he went through those experiences so that he may help others not to have those experiences. Theo used to say, "We know what happens when good people remain silent in the face of injustice." And so he was determined to never be silent in the face of injustice. Theo used to say, "I have one moral compass, love my neighbor as myself. And as long as I keep that moral compass, I cannot go wrong, no matter what circumstances, no matter if I become impoverished, no matter, what, that is the compass that we need to keep." And he also taught that even in the face of great pain and adversity, you can have joy in your heart, and you can do your craft with joy, and it doesn't take away from your compassion. It doesn't take away from your pain. It doesn't take away from your sympathy with the suffering of others, but it actually helps lighten the load. That if we have joy in our hearts, if we have a love for humanity in our hearts, that can be the fuel that we use while we're fixing the world. We don't have to be, many activists, they're bitter, they're angry, they're sarcastic, they're cynical. They jump on other people's throats who don't have the exact same opinion. Your comrades in arms until you say the wrong thing, and then they ostracize you. Theo wasn't like that at all. He was always looking for broad alliances, because he thought that the broad alliance is the point. That if we're going to jump on someone because their opinion is a little different, all we're going to have is broken humanity, which is supposedly the opposite of what we were working for. Which
look at people now
with each other.
And when you look at people now, who the ones that were not here, this is the one that kills me. Well, I don't want to like Jewish people because why? Do you know any Jewish people? No. Well, how you gonna dislike somebody you don't know? If you could just give me one of those. And mind you, I'm a pretty smart chick. I'm college educated and all that.
I can definitely tell in one moment.
Oh, stupid is stupid is stupid, and you can't fix stupid. And I say, well, why don't you? Do you know? No, I don't know any. If you could just stop and explain to me why now you hate all Jewish people, and why? Well, my daddy told me to. His daddy told him to. What? That's just is generational stupid, if you ask me. And children do not come with an protagonistic demeanor. They don't know hate. They don't know anything but love. You put some babies in the sandbox. I don't care what we'll use where you've traveled. We go to India. We get some babies from India. You go to Vienna. Go get some babies from Vienna. And you come to the United States. You go to Africa. You got 6 kids in 6 different nationalities. And only thing them kids are worried about is, when is it gonna be my turn? They don't argue and fight in the playground like that. Hatred is taught. And I remember a profound statement that the late great Muhammad Ali said. He said, "I'm not going to fight the Vietnamese. I have never met a Vietnamese person ever called me out of my name, ever was rude and disrespectful to me." And they said, "Well, if you don't go in the army, you're going to go to jail." He said, "Have at it. Not something. Have at it." And when you do this, I like when the kids do this. And that's what we are. Look at that. See what I do? See the heart just going.
I want them too.
And what we're teaching our children, are seeing them younger and younger become very violent, very, well, you got a nice car. I'm never going to have a Porsche. So let me just bash you in your head and take your car. I don't get that. And when I say we, I'm talking about the adults in the room, the adults of society. It is our responsibility to pick up the gauntlet. And as we're going through that gauntlet, we got to know what we're walking through the fire for. And oftentimes, well, for me, I get my tuchus burned so much walking through the gut. I done got me some plastic rubber pants. Remember when they had plastic what would they call them? You know, when people use cloth diapers on the babies and that rubber pants. I couldn't think of what it was, rubber pants, because it can get so crazy. And you coming in and celebrating your husband like this, if he could see this, and he would have been 100 years old on May 2nd, correct?
Correct.
So what would you say to him now? Because I was gonna say if he were here with you now, he's here with you. You know, you could feel spirit all around you from that. I was trying to figure out what's that like. And it's not the window. It's coming from all over. What do you think he would have thought about this recognition?
Well, Theo was an entertainer, and he loved the limelight. Entertainers do. He wasn't shy. He wasn't modest. He was wonderful and he was amazing, but he was not shy or modest. I think he would be astounded, truthfully, by what I've continued to do with his legacy since he passed away 9 years ago. I think that he hoped or, assumed that I do some. I don't think he imagined that 9 years later I would still be doing as much as I do, but he's like a feast that I just can't stop feasting on. It's so tasty. Everything about his legacy and his career and his stories and the anecdotes, it's endless. When I do these programs, I can talk about something a little different every time and I never run out. So he would be thrilled. I think even though he wasn't modest, I think at this point he would be a little bit kind of overwhelmed, and he'd say, "Wow, like that there's so much, so many awards, not awards, recognition." I think that he would agree with me the way I'm handling his legacy, and that is that I am definitely stressing the elements that have to do with what I told you that word before, tikkun olam, the fixing of the world. The music, the acting, of course, it's wonderful. And I show clips and I listen to his music and I play his music and we, to others. And it's just wonderful. But for me, the significance of that is that he used those platforms for bringing love into the world, for loving the world better. So that's the part that I stress. And I think that he would agree with me about that that's the part that I should stress. I don't know what happens when we pass away. I wish I do. I wish I knew where he was. I don't know how close they stay, how close they don't stay. Sometimes I think they're right here with us, but we just can't see them. They're just right here and we just can't see it.
The body wears out, the soul does not.
So I believe that,
I had to write that down. That was real good.
Very good. Yeah. So, where is he now? When he first passed away, I was very, very involved with that point. Where are you? Where are you? I'd been living such a spiritual life for so long that I think I kind of assumed that when he passes away, I'll be able to just find him. I'll hear him. He'll be in my head and I'll talk to him, or I'll sit on the sofa and I'll just kind of have a sense that he's there with me. And I can't say that that's what happened. In the first while after he died, I was very lost and I didn't sense him really at all. I think that had to do with that I was looking for him in the wrong way because, until he died, everything about it was so physical. I could touch him. And it takes a while. For me, it took a while of an adjustment period to stop craving that physical and to accept that I won't be touching him physically again. That's not happening. And to make that kind of transition and then be able to accept a different way to sense him. And over time, I started to think that when I think about him, he's with me. When I remember him, he's with me. When I'm up on stage talking about him, he's with me. And you know what? When I'm on stage, sometimes people say, "You're channeling him, girl." I do. I kind of, in a way, almost become him in a certain way. And so who's to say that that's not really him with me on stage, you know,
I
talking?
think faith is believing when you don't see. Faith is
True,
when you
very
don't
true.
see and you believe something that can happen. Okay, yeah, it could be supernatural. Yeah, it could be really, really big. This is why I understand why people don't understand that we're connected by energy. Yay or nay, we are connected by energy. The universe is full of little things and big things that we can know that we're not alone, and we stay connected. And the problem comes in my opinion, is when you disconnect. When you say, "Oh, this isn't for me. Oh, I'm gonna get over it." They tell you have a loss in your family, your husband, your mother, your children, whatever, and they'll tell you 3 months later, you need to get over that.
You know, I wrote a whole article about that, about all of that. Time to move on, time to move on. People would tell you time to move on. Like they started telling me that he hadn't been in the grave at 30 days, and people were already telling me time to move on, time to move on. And I resented that. And I actually, I'm not a very resentful person, but I resented that not only people were really kind of on about that a lot, but that even when I would ask them to stop, they'd still kind of be on about it. And I decided that it's other people's discomfort with grief, and that people don't want you to be engaging so continuously with that emotion and with that reality that someone that you loved is gone, and it made them uncomfortable. So I actually started keeping a lot of it to myself. And I'm not someone who keeps things to myself normally, but at that time, I think I started keeping a lot of that to myself. And I used to go to the cemetery in the first and second year a lot, like at least once a week, but it could be more.
Mhm.
And I'd go and sit with him at the cemetery, and I didn't tell people that I was doing that because people were looking at me strange. And I just wanted to trust my process. I didn't feel crazy at all. I felt in terrible grief, and that
Mhm.
didn't feel crazy. That felt normal, but
What
just
you
terrible, but normal.
what you
And
needed to do.
but after about 3 years, I thought the colors should start coming back now, because things really went kind of flat after he died. And I was still feeling it more than I expected to feel it after 3 years. And it was really only about the fourth year that I started to, notice, oh, the birds are chirping, or, oh, oh, look how pretty those different greens look on that wall, or, oh, the magnolias are blooming, how long have they been blooming? And so that was about the fourth year. And I don't want anyone to judge me for that. That's how long it took. That's all. It took that long. And,
So be it. And they want to
you
tell you
know,
what your grief should be like, how
that's
you should
right.
grieve, give
That's
you a
right.
finite number. Well, when my mother passed away, my father passed away, I was really a kid. I was like 9, 10 years old. My mother raised 6 kids with no husband. She never remarried or anything. And she would
Wow.
say,
Oh my goodness.
she'd
Wow.
say, y'all act the fool. Don't think I ain't gonna pop one of y'all. She carried a loaded 38 in her purse, and we were all
Wow.
teaming together. And she said, "I was like, Mama crazy, right?" I'm like, "Why you carry a gun?" She said, "Because if one of y'all go berserk on me, all of y'all going berserk. Don't give me the same amount of time if I popped all of y'all, and I won't do a day in jail, which I'll tell them about you." I was like, that's kind of deep that your mama would go into. And I don't think it's, especially with people that you love. And I don't think there is a limit on grieving, or a limit, because you learn, just like you said, you learn to grieve differently. It took you 4 years to get back to where you needed to be. And how much would you say you Miss Aimee, how much have you grown since he left the planet, his body left the planet?
So very much. So very much. I'm gonna look really fast on my phone. I wrote a poem about grieving some years ago
Mhm.
that I would read it to I would, if I can find it in 1 second. If it takes me more
Okay.
than a second, I'll give it up.
That's okay. This is our time. This is your
Let's
time
see.
to talk about your
So
husband.
also, I'm looking at the time, and I do have to finish exactly at 3. But
Okay,
let's
we'll be
find
exactly at
this.
3. I'm mindful of the time.
Okay, I want to see if I find this, because
Mhm.
if I do, a synagogue had asked me to write a poem um, for um, uh, for them on a Yom Kippur. Um, but no, I mean, it's not coming up in a simple search.
Okay. Well, that gives us time for you to come back on and read the poem to us. Or if
I
you
would
find,
love that. Yeah,
uh,
it's not coming up like that. I thought it would, but it doesn't. Oh, I know how to look. 1 second. I just know.
well, while we're waiting, I want to say a big thank you and a big shout out to your PR guy who is just
I'm
awesome.
gonna stop. Yeah, I'm sorry. I interrupt. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Please start again. I'm sorry.
Oh no, no, I was saying while we were waiting, I wanted to give a big shout out to your PR guy, Harlan Bowl.
He is the best.
Is he I know that he always makes sure I get the top of the line people on the show. I'm just saying. I got Aimee Ginsburg, Jill, who is the what? Why am I whispering? I have no idea why I started whispering.
But we can definitely call out Harlan Bull. He's a publicist to the stars, the kindest person ever. He believes in everything that we talked about today. He believes in it as well. And he puts his heart and his soul to not only making sure that his clients are taken care of, but these values of social justice, of peace, of loving kindness, get out there as much as possible. And I think that that's the heart of why he does his work.
I know that. I know that is the heart of what he does. And he's so good at it. We just love you to pieces, Harlan.
Love you, Harlan. Love you so much.
Okay, so now the poem that we cannot find, that you cannot find, just give us kind of a gist of.
Well, just that if you let your grief flow through you, it'll change you. And if you try to keep it, if you try to build a dam, or you try to not let the grief come, actually it doesn't do its job, and it doesn't give you the gift that it could give. See, your grief is a gift. I think it ends with something like, it's a gift to the patient, open-hearted. Don't hold it back. Don't build a dam. Get on that raft and travel on that raft through the river of grief. It's a completely unknown and unknowable journey if you don't take it. It's a scary one, but if you allow yourself, allow, the word allow. And if you allow it to work itself on you, you'll come through that river a new person, deeper, more rich, evolved in so many ways that you could not have imagined. And it's a gift. It's a gift. It's like a pilgrimage. The grief is a pilgrimage.
And you can rest
holy pilgrimage. It's a holy pilgrimage, and it's a holy gift that we get from life. Existence itself has planned grief as part of our journey, and there's many ways in which we can evolve that would not be possible without grief. And so in this culture, for example, when there's this congratulations for moving on, congratulations, you've moved on so fast. It's nothing to congratulate.
Okay. See, I thought it was just me, Aimee. I thought it was just me. Oh, you finally got over there. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to ever get over my parents passing away, my siblings passing away. With 6 of us, 6 kids. There are only 2 left, myself and one of my younger sisters.
And you both live to be 120.
Oh, no, I don't like a lot of these people out here. It's too peoply. I found out when the pandemic came, I was like, because, you find out things about yourself when you're in the pandemic. And coming out of the pandemic, especially for what we do. And it was so hard to get people to not think about that. I'm like, listen, baby, you don't have to not think about that. Let us talk about how this is affecting you. And I found out my husband turned into the COVID-19 Sentinel. I'm like, dude, he got to put all the children out the house during Christmas. All y'all because one of them got exposed to COVID. I think it was one of our grandsons, his girlfriend got COVID. And he came in the room and talked to my father, talked to his grandfather. And they be cracking me up. He said, Papa, come back here. I'm doing so and so. I've been exposed to COVID. He came out the door. Everybody, get yourself, get up and leave. He's been exposed. I was like, hey, these are grandchildren. They're walking petri dishes right now. And everybody got to go. It's like, we had all the sprays, all the hand sanitizers, all the food. And thank goodness, only one person that I know of in our immediate family caught it. As a matter of fact, she caught it. So that was really a blessing.
Thank God for that. Thank God.
and to think about, because it really gave a lot of people a lot of time to think about who they were, what they were, and what was their assignment and their mission. And most of them, and it's terrible to say this, most of them had no idea how to cope. They had no outlet. I said, well, what was the last book you read? Oh, I haven't read a book in like 3 years. I'm like, well, what did you say? There's plenty to do. There's plenty for you to do. I had to rearrange all my clothes like 15 times, and I'm a clothes horse. I mean, you find out what you want to do, what you can do, and they just sit, what you say, they just sit there and let the energy, block them off, and they can't get the blessings coming in. They don't get blessings from other people, and people don't understand what a blessing is. This is just me. People don't really understand what a simple thing can be such a blessing. To know that your child is all right, to know your grandchildren are all right. I'm the kind of person, I don't want y'all sitting in my, I want to do like the Jewish people. When I die, I got to be in the ground in 3 days. Don't be going up, and we're going to sit shiva, and we're going to have a respite. We're going to do everything. We're going to do everything. And so that's what we're doing. And, people don't want to make plans for that. I mean, it's not like you're coming out of life alive. Why aren't you putting the most positive you could put into the universe? I'm just asking.
Well, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. If you don't mind, I'm going to say again something about my program. And then, very unfortunately, I'm going to have to go. I have an appointment at 3 as well. So I'm going to go. So I just want to say again, and maybe I'll say it in a way that's a little better. I'm traveling across the country to people's organizations, churches, synagogues, universities, museums, clubs, any kind of organization that's interested, and talking about the incredible life and legacy of Theodore Bikel for his 100th birthday. I'm always appreciative for tips from people. So if someone would like me to come out to their organization, their club, their university, their school, their museum, their anything, please drop me a line. My email is quite simple. You see there on the screen, Aimee Ginsburg Bikel. So my email address is amy@aimeeginsburgbikel.com. So if you just jot down the Aimee Ginsburg Bikel, and then you put an Amy in front of that. So amy@aimeeginsburgbikel.com is my email address. I'm happy not only about my program, but any questions you might have, any comments, any fan mail for Theo, anything at all, I always answer. I'd love to hear from you. It's amy@aimeeginsburgbikel.com. Write me, and I love to talk with anyone at all. And this has been so wonderful. You're a fantastic interviewer, from one interviewer to another, I'm telling you. It was so great to talk, so emotional. My heart feels so open.
So really, really deep down inside of it, you're a waterhead like I am. I think so. I can't hold it in. I cannot hold it in because you don't know what's going to come.
We even look like sisters, so.
Listen, I'm a phone call away. You got my email. We get my husband's cell phone, because I tell people, don't call me in the bathroom.
So don't ever hesitate to use it.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been a blessing. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Me too. I'll come back on the show anytime. Anything that you want to talk about more, be my honor and my pleasure to come back on your show. So don't hesitate to invite me.
Y'all heard her, didn't you? You heard. Well, you enjoy your next space where you're going to. Thank you very much. You be well, and make sure we get in touch. And thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
So welcome. Peace and blessings.